When it comes to stylish tactical shooters, Europe has been a powerhouse since the very beginning of the genre. The European success in Counter-Strike, for example, is so big that the American scene either curled up to cry in a corner or moved to Europe to play with the big boys. Valorant is no exception when it comes to European prowess. But where the North American VALORANT profited from Counter-Strike players desperately trying to find a new home, EU mostly had to grow their own talent. As it turns out, that's no problem for the region. When Valorant came out, everyone saw the potential the game had to become a massive esport, with pros, streamers, and filthy casuals all jumping in headfirst. And with Riot Games backing tournaments from the start, that potential was not wasted. Already in the beta, competitive players began to form teams to play in Riot's tournament circuit known as the Ignition Series. Some teams immediately rose to the challenge and found themselves at the top. One such team was Fish123. 4 of the best UK players teaming up with the Belgian one-tap sensation Scream. Scream has over a decade of professional experience playing CSGO, but his glory days with Counter-Strike were over. When there's not much to lose, it's easier to take a gamble on something new, and that's exactly what Scream did. He switched his AK-47 for a Vandal and continued to hit those headshots in a different game. With his brother at his side on the new Team Liquid lineup, he looks even more poised to demolish the competition. Scream wasn't the only CS player who found themselves in such a position. Mixwell, for example, used to be an AWPer for Cloud9, on the same roster as Sentinel Stars 10s, but when he got an offer from G2 Esports to get a fresh start in Valorant, he simply could not refuse. It's not just the players, but the esports organisations that saw Valorant's potential too, and wanted to be involved from the start. The early signings were risky, of course, but it was hard to tell who would come out on top once the initial hype had died down on the newly formed Valorant scene. But many organisations like G2, Heretics, and Ninjas in Pyjamas went for it anyway and jumped in head first. Team Liquid picked up Fish123, and the dust in Europe seemed to have settled. 2021 was the start of the Valorant Champions Tour, or VCT for those in the know. The team scored circuit points in 3 challenges events to qualify for the Masters. In Stage 1, a global Masters event couldn't take place, so the European teams had to battle it out amongst themselves. FunPlus Phoenix and Swedish powerhouse Guild Esports rose through the ranks. Heretics were still doing their thing and came in second, as they couldn't beat the new contender, Ascend. Ascend came in hot with players like the Cool Killer, Bone Cold, and Solid CNED, perhaps the best opera in the world. CNED on Jet is a straight up beast, as he snipes his opponents from any distance, and when he plays, he has all the Turkish fans behind him, cheering him on. The popularity of Valorant in Turkey is causing a new threat to the European teams. Oxygen Esports and Supermassive Blaze have been relentlessly challenging EU for months, with no signs of slowing down. It's not just Turkey who want to fight the other European teams to the throne. The CIS region is also included in European tournaments, so they also have to fear the Russian Reapers. Gambit Esports has done a fantastic job at challenging them at every opportunity. Look, when Nats wants to kill you, you're done for. Just accept it. But intent doesn't count for much unless you get the results. And what matters more than anything for Europe and EMEA as a whole is how they perform on an international stage. The first chance we had to see them in action in an interregional competition was Masters 2 in Reykjavik, Iceland. Team Liquid and Fnatic had to beat Oxygen and Gambit to qualify for Iceland and to show the world what EU can do. Team Liquid did well at Iceland, but Fnatic, coming in as a second seed from Europe, did even more damage. They made a surprising run to the grand finals, where they got beaten by the Sentinels, who had put Fnatic down to the lower bracket earlier. With more and more challenges in Stage 3, qualifying for Masters Berlin was tough for the European teams. Team Liquid and Fnatic didn't return to LAN, but were replaced by Ascend, Supermassive Blaze, Gambit, and G2. The Turkish and Russian players have stepped up their game, and they got to prove themselves against the world. G2 Esports crushed all expectations by taking down Sentinels and coming in 4th. But despite this, Berlin's main storyline belonged to Gambit. They beat G2 to reach the grand finals, where they had to face Envy. Envy had not lost a single map during the tournament and looked untouchable, but Gambit quickly changed that. 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, a crushing defeat for Envy and a statement from Gambit. The EMEA region has a lot more to offer and will crush you if you aren't paying attention. Nat showed up big in Berlin, Not only did he get the 5th highest average combat score, he also got the most multi-kills out of any player in the tournament. And the madman doesn't even play a duelist. What Nats can do with Viper and Cypher is simply extraordinary. NA has Sentinels and Envy, Korea has Vision Strikers, Latin America has Crew. For Europe, however, it's harder to point out which teams have been dominating, as they're all pretty much as good as each other. In Europe, several teams must fight for the regional wins and for spots in bigger tournaments. Their main rival, you ask? North America. With Sentinels taking the victory at the first international tournament, they're a region to be reckoned with. North America grew even faster than EU in the early days of Valorant, and the rivalries are just getting bigger. Sentinels look to be the best team in the world for a while, but Europe has a broad spectrum of players to find a way to beat them. With new agents and new maps being released every year, Valorant changes all the time. Who will be on top at Champions and who will dominate next year? It's all up to adaptability of the European teams. They've shown they have the firepower, now they just have to keep their strat butt up to date. How do you think EMEA stacks up against North America? Or do you think other regions can challenge them, like Korea? Let us know down in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on brand new Valorant esports content.